Hello, and welcome to Episode 2 of the Backmarkers podcast. Firstly, I want to give a big thank you to everyone who has listened to the first episode and reached out to us and gave us some feedback. It's been great to hear. We're all very gassed that people have been listening to our little thing here. This week on the pod, we go through some of the news in the F1 paddock, as well as going through our predictions for the upcoming season. Slide into one of our DMs and let us know your predictions for the upcoming season. But that's enough from me. Let's get into the pod.
So I think maybe if we start off with a bit of news from the week that's just passed, as even though we're in the off season, there's been a surprising amount of content, most of which has been sourced from our Twitter group chat. As soon as anything F1 related comes up, it gets sent straight to the group chat. So yeah,
or the Top Gear F1 Twitter page. That gets updated every day.
Shout outs to the to the Top
to be
Gear
fair,
F1
that is a
Twitter
worthy
page.
shout out.
Best Twitter page.
That is getting us through lockdown.
It asked how we were. Better for that Twitter page.
Speaking of getting through lockdown, did anyone watch the virtual GP?
Fair
I
enough.
didn't watch it because I was too busy watching Brighton being absolutely amazing. Did I say Brighton or Tottenham?
All right, I think
That's
I think we
right.
had enough of Brighton last week, Brad. All right, so
Yeah, I didn't watch the virtual GP.
No, I was planning. I'm probably going to watch the highlights before bed this evening, but it just didn't feel the same. I didn't feel the same hype as
It
I
didn't
did
feel very organic.
last
Yeah.
time. No, exactly. It felt a bit forced, and also the fact that the lineup. Yes, okay, you had Jimmer and you had Ben at McLaren, which was good, but like it wasn't a great lineup. And it just, it felt like they were doing it just because they knew the previous ones were successful, rather than in an attempt to like entertaining us.
Yeah.
Because obviously last time it was quite spontaneous, starting off with not the Australian Grand Prix, and then the actual official F1 accounts jumping on it. And when they were doing that, it just felt it was not spontaneous, but we were all in this together.
Yeah.
And the F1 drivers were bored, we were bored, and the content creators were bored, and it all worked.
to be fair, I feel like at the time as well, it was when like a lot of people were at their absolute lowest. Like in the lockdown, like it was when it started to really get to people. Like now, it's become sort of a bit more normal, like as normal as we want it to be. But like it's more like you can't just get on with your day. It is what it is now. Like at that point where like that the not the Oz virtual Grand Prix popped up, it was like, okay, this is needed right now. Like this is complete relief from everything else that's going on around you.
I also feel there's a bit of fatigue now as well. Well, a lot of fatigue, to be honest, with everything going on. We're kind of fed up of like virtual things. Like I feel like this time there's not been as many like Zoom drinks and things like that, because we've just been in this situation so long that something like the virtual Grand Prix is not going to get the same sort of audience because we're fed up.
Within our group, we've only done 2 things this lockdown, and they've been my worldly quizzes, which I'm hoping you're doing this. Are we doing it this weekend? I want to hear your quiz.
We have 0 questions.
If we get the time to do it, might be after next week or whatever. But say as uni commitments are coming back with a vengeance.
Yes.
We'll give it a good go.
Yeah, we'll come up with something this week. But it just didn't. I didn't want to sort of rush and plan my day around watching it like I did before, especially because the timing was on like 6 o'clock or whatever on a Sunday. You had to make plans to watch that because obviously being Brits, that sort of that's dinner time.
You're so busy the rest of the day, aren't you, Luke?
Yeah,
I
had a very strenuous day playing Football Manager and watching Chelsea. That was about all I did on Sunday, but still.
I was going into it on the Sunday. I was like, well, Brighton are playing at 7:15. By that point, the race is going to be halfway through. I'm just not going to watch it. I'd rather watch Brighton. I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
Oh,
got your first home victory.
Our last home victories have been 2021, 2020, and 2019.
That is
You've only won 2 home games in 2 years.
Tottenham, Arsenal,
that's
we beat
crazy.
you last year. That was our only home win last year.
Oh yeah, because that was the day that Leno almost died.
And then we won the last game, like the last day of 2019 against Bournemouth. So and that's it.
Oh my.
That's
a really bad record. But
record.
I am so sure of survival this year now.
Well, I mean, speaking,
I didn't think you were going to go down anyway. By power of deduction of how bad the other teams in the league are.
I think we're dragging other teams into the mix now for relegation. But anyway, Formula One.
Well, what I was going to say is, speaking of bad records, and also sort of I said about like us all being in it together during the first lockdown. We're now at our 6th driver to have contracted COVID-19, and especially recently, it has been on training camps or just vacations in Dubai and in the UAE, and it very much feels like, I mean, I know obviously I'm hoping so. Pierre Gasly, he got his he posted today that he was COVID positive, and Leclerc had COVID and Lando had COVID.
That's since the end of the season.
Yeah, that's 3 in a short space of time in the off season.
Yeah, Gasly's Instagram thing was literally like, it seemed like exactly word for word the same as Charles's as well. That was the awkward thing I picked up from it.
Yeah, exactly. To be honest, they probably came from the same sort of press release. Yeah, like probably the same press guy. A French-speaking press guy was like, well, we'll just chop that up. That'll do. And it.
Well, maybe not even that. Maybe F1
maybe
has given them a statement to give
quite
out
possibly
on the event of COVID, and said, oh, change it a little bit.
Like,
make
it
your own. Make it your own.
Are drivers doing enough to protect themselves when they're not in this? Like, the Formula One bubble was so strict and secure. Now that it's so relaxed, there's obviously quite a danger that drivers are going and like putting themselves in like harm's way. Because you got drivers all over the world. It's like, is that where you want to be?
Well, especially as Gasly said, it was for training. Like, he was out in Dubai. You can train from
I've
home.
seen pictures of him in parties in Dubai, so I'm calling Shiggy Diggy straight away.
I mean, you're saying about them putting themselves in harm's way. Like, to be honest, I don't think the issue there is them putting themselves in harm's way. It's just completely selfish to be jetting out to Dubai for no real reason to... Yes, okay, they're young and they've got money. And obviously, I wish... Charles and Lando, as far as I'm aware, have recovered, and I wish Gasly a speedy recovery. Still one of my favourite drivers. But it's irresponsible to be doing this sort of thing during a pandemic. Because, well... the ones that are based in Europe, most of them, well, all of them basically are based in Europe, and in countries where there are lockdown restrictions, being told, do not travel. You do not travel unless there is an essential. And, okay, they can turn around and say it was for work because it was training for Formula One, but it was just an excuse to, well, we'll do some training, obviously, because they're never going to stop training. But it was an excuse to go out and pretend COVID wasn't a thing. And in doing that, they're putting flight attendants at risk. Okay, yes, they would have flown privately, but still, then just by putting a plane up, say there's an accident, then that puts the first responders like at risk. It's just all of these little things that add up. It's just lots of little irresponsible things, and I don't know, it just doesn't sit right with me. But I don't want to sort of, I know it's probably a bit too late, so I don't want to get into a COVID rant, but like, it's just, yeah, they need to be doing better. Like, I mean, it's, especially you were saying like, oh, now they're out of the F1 biodome bubble, whatever you want to call it, like with testing all the time. We had the 2 Racing Points and Lewis get COVID during an entire season, and barely any of the mechanics or anything like that. And it was
the amount of tests that they
was
did,
done so
and
well.
Like the little cases that there were was staggering. Like, I compare it to UFC because they did events all throughout the last year as well. The amount of fighters that had to pull out from fights because their coach got it or they got it was insane. It would run every card, and there's like 13 fights a card. The amount of people in the Formula One travelling circus and the amount of people that actually got it was so low in comparison. So they obviously did a really good job. As soon as the season's over, it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, and I can understand why, because they had to be kept under such strict conditions during the season to get the season to go ahead, with bubbles and social distancing at all time, masks at all time, not allowed in the paddock without a negative test, this,
Also,
that, and
just
the other. And it's human nature to rebel.
Just countries letting them into the place to let them race there. Like the Bahrain and Abu Dhabi protocols were very, very secure.
Yeah. Like, it's...
You would imagine, though, you would imagine that there's obviously some return to season protocols or stuff in place, ready for, like, you've got to do, as a driver or as anybody that's going to Bahrain, you've probably got to do 2 weeks isolation, I'd imagine, before heading out there. So, in terms of it going back into Formula 1, I think we're safe. I think it's going to be of the same level, if not better.
Yeah, because they've had a whole season. Yeah, they know what they're doing better.
Yeah. So, I think the issue purely lies with the off season, and as you said, it's not understandable, but it is understandable. But it's not.
Yeah. No. Exactly.
You know what I mean? It's like they have been under such tight restrictions, tighter than the rest of us, for quite a while, for the entire season. So from what, June?
It was July.
July. From July to December, they were under the tightest of restrictions, basically. That you can understand them wanting that, but at the same time,
I think they have a responsibility as a role model.
It's still in the same position.
Precisely that, yeah.
Yeah.
And thankfully, though, that seems to be what F1 Twitter, which is normally a minefield, that's what a lot of people have been saying, that, look, obviously we wish them well, but they need to take their role in the public eye more seriously, especially as the role of F1 in the media and on social media grows. With Drive to Survive, we've got Season 3 coming out soon, haven't we, in March. Very much excited for that. But with the growing presence of the sport and trying to reach a younger audience, because without putting it too bluntly, the people that watched F1 are disappearing, shall we say? Yeah, because it's it was either older people who aren't with us anymore, unfortunately, or people are giving up on the sport, so they need to get a younger audience in. These drivers, especially Lando, Charles, Pierre, they're young men, and yes, okay, we all make mistakes, but our mistakes aren't likely to have the same influence on others, and I think that's something that their team bosses are going to have to remind them of. And I mean, I can't see Binotto. Well, Binotto hasn't really got a backbone, so he's not going to have a go at Charles. But I can't Zach and Andreas Seidel are not going to be pleased with what's happened there. And
doing in LA, what's he California is just a hotbed for COVID at the moment.
Yeah, I think they said it was one in it was a single digit number, 1 in something in California has COVID at the moment. I can't quite remember what the figure is. It might be best to edit that bit out because I'm rambling and reaching for a figure I don't have. But it is real bad there.
Right.
I feel like we should move away from COVID, but I think
move away from COVID. We've done about 10 minutes.
I do think it's an important discussion that needs to be had. I know we might not have the biggest platform. For sure. Maybe one day we will. But exactly.
Yeah, conceive, believe, achieve, Luke. Conceive,
you've got to have these conversations. People need to have them because they need to be held accountable as well. But yeah, I think
should we get onto the news that came out today? Is that Australia are changing their track layout a little bit. There's not many differences, but then there's also Barcelona, which pictures came out of the new hairpin, which is a shambles.
It's no longer a hairpin. Yeah, I think if we start with Barcelona, because I think that one's going to get us a bit more riled up. And I mean, it was chronologically, it was first.
So Barcelona. I didn't actually look at the pictures or the article for this one. All I saw was what you guys actually said about this one. So the hairpin that they're changing, is this the hairpin?
It's after the DRS
going into sector 3.
The one you always lock up at and go wide.
A nice plug for Codemasters F1 2020.
EA
Yeah.
Sports Codemasters F1
Yeah,
2020.
sorry, EA, please don't sue us.
Yes, it's that corner.
But yeah, so they're
So,
narrowing.
Well,
the hair.
Do you know where?
It's been
Not a hairpin?
reprofiled.
You know
Is that
where
what's
the
happening?
you know you've obviously got the sharper hairpin, and then there's the longer loop that goes around the outside. That's basically what the corner
Which
is gonna
Yeah, because that loop is what they use for the MotoGP normally, isn't it? Oh no, that MotoGP loop's further down the straight, isn't
No,
it?
they
Yeah.
use the tight one now. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, well, it was just when I used to
Yeah,
watch. I mean,
no,
I've not
it
watched it
used
for
to
a
be, it
good
used
like
to be.
10, 15
When
years.
they
so-
went to Catalonia like last year and the year before, and they used the sharp hairpin. I was like, hang on a minute, why are they doing that?
Fair
They
enough,
use
yeah.
the long layout. They don't use the chicane, obviously. That would be
Yeah.
far too difficult for the bikes. But yeah, so basically they've got rid of one of the main. I wouldn't say main overtaking. They've got rid of one of the two overtaking opportunities
Yeah.
on the track because it's
So
Yeah.
they've essentially made one of the worst tracks
Even worse, yeah.
worse.
Like,
Nice,
I feel
nice. We like
the
it.
only
We like it. Good commitment from Barcelona to the brand.
it's
I do
commitment,
have to
innit?
say.
Like,
They've gone. We haven't got testing here, so how can we make
yeah.
it less competitive?
well, that's the thing, though. I think the only real place for the Barcelona circuit, in all honesty, is for pre-season testing.
Yeah.
Like, it's a cracking track for them for testing because it's got everything they need to be looking at on the cars, and they can make great progress. It's in Europe, so it's very easy for them to get to. But I can't remember the last decent Grand Prix was like there really. If we think about it, was probably when Verstappen got his first win, and that was only such a great race because the Mercedes took each other out, and you can't pass at Barcelona, so Max managed to hold on for the win. So like, I know for me, like, a race to be good doesn't need to have like 75 overtakes and this, that, and the other, but
No, but it needs to have competitiveness.
yeah, exactly. It shouldn't just be a procession.
No one wants to watch a race where it's going to be the same order from start to finish unless
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
a
And
crash. Like, there's got to be some movement to make it exciting.
the worst thing is there are so many good tracks in Spain as well. Like, so you got the circuit in Valencia that the MotoGP used.
I thought you was gonna.
Not
I thought you
suggesting
was
we go
gonna
back to
street
the.
circuit.
No. I wasn't
I
going
tell
to
you
suggest
what,
going back
I
to that
used to
street
love
circuit.
driving that the Valencian street circuit.
It was a challenge, that one, and it was a nice idea, but yeah, it just didn't work out as a circuit. And now actually, it's fallen into complete
Yes.
disrepair. Like, if you're listening, or Jack, I'd imagine you haven't seen it. Like, if you get 5 minutes, like, Google it and like look at the photos. It is just completely it's just been left to rot. So, but other than that, Spain has got some good circuits. You don't need to go to Catalonia, and also if they're obviously with this leads us on. We can go back to Australia, but it leads us on to the TBC or TBA, whatever you want to call it, race, the one that is going to replace Vietnam. Like, it's likely to be at Portimao, and okay, part of the attraction for that race was it was something new, but it's a good race circuit. There's opportunities to overtake, and it's a.
There's not really.
I mean, a lot of them were DRS overtakes. Yeah. I'm aware of that, but the overtakes going DRS. If we shorten the DRS straight, and then we have more moves into turn 1 that aren't like Lance destroying Lando.
That's
Still
2
not
weeks
over
in
that.
a row that you've mentioned that.
I
feel
know.
I'm still fuming. Honestly, I'm still fuming.
I mean, not as fuming as Lando was after
Yes.
his radio message that he had to apologise for.
Yeah, what he said obviously wasn't good, but I get it. It's the heat of the moment. But what was good was him apologising.
It was fruity language, but the actual sentiment.
Yeah.
Of
And
the
there's
message,
other drivers
yeah,
who have
correct.
said worse and didn't apologise. Max.
Yeah. Well, also the fact that what Max said is actually,
Yes.
or A, it's
Yeah,
racist,
it's not
and
funny
B,
at all.
it's ableist
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
So yeah, and people came out and defended him, saying, "Oh well, it means something different in Dutch. It does not."
Doesn't
And
matter.
the
I don't
and the
think it does.
Association of People with Down Syndrome came out and like made a statement being like, we encourage Max to retract what he says and apologise, because like that's not on. Well, again, we're sort of getting back to the idea of responsibility. He needs to think about what he's saying more. But
Right.
yeah, Lando, obviously I don't want to compare the two, but yeah, Lando shouldn't have said what he said. The anger was understandable. He did apologise, and if Kimi had said that, people would have been like, oh, what a legend. So
Right, let's get back on track. Barcelona is
yeah,
a B-Tech.
back on track quite literally.
Barcelona is a B-Tech Portimao. That's all that needs saying.
Yeah.
There isn't that many overtaking opportunities at Portimao, but it's a better circuit to drive on. It's a more challenging track, and
It's a better track,
and
it's still a new track. I know we raced there last year, but if you're gonna have a boring race, you'd rather it at a different track than the one that you've seen, than a carbon copy of the race you've seen.
Yeah.
However many years they've been going around Barcelona.
Well, also for the new formula as well, Portimao could be a very good track, because once the cars are able to follow more closely, then there's going to be more opportunities. And I know that will kind of apply to most circuits, but if you think about the opportunities to overtake at Barcelona, even if the cars can follow each other, they're few and far between. Like, because it's sweeping corners, high speed corners, this, that and the other, and they've got rid of one of the opportunities. So it's basically just like slipstream. I think we still will have DRS in the new formula, but it won't be as powerful. And then braking into turn one. So even if they can follow better, okay, there might be more DRS passes, but that's not really what we want. Whereas, yeah, Portimao, I can see there being like going down the hill. If you can get a good run, you could outbrake someone down there, and we saw a few of those overtakes during the race. Like, you have to be brave to overtake there, or around the outside when you've got the undulating bit. Like, there are opportunities, and you can be a bit opportunistic there. So yeah, but
it is
simple as this.
yeah, exactly. Like, and hopefully Codemasters, EA Sports Codemasters get Portimao onto the 2021 game, because I'd very much like to drive it.
I don't know how likely it is the later it goes until that race is confirmed.
The only saving grace with that is that obviously Portimao was on Project Cars and Project Cars 2. I don't know about Project Cars 3 because, I mean, it's a bit of a trash game. They've gone arcade. Anyway, good job, Cody's. But it's on those games, so they should be able to port it across. But you can never really be sure with Cody's. Like, the games are fun, but
we'll see.
You know.
So if we go to Australia,
Anyway, moving on to Australia. Yeah.
The plan basically for most of it is just to widen some of the corners. I think the main change they want to do is on turn 10, which is just before the long left-hand kind of straight. They just want to take that away, basically. They just want to continue that. Yeah, they just want to continue as a straight. Which I don't think is a good idea.
Which, arguably, it makes it a power-heavy circuit, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely.
Because you're going to be flat out through a good sector of that track. Like, maybe sector's not the right word, but like a good section of the Australia track.
No, that is a sector, because it's from basically the right-hand corner, I think like turn 8, is where sector 1 ends, and then all you've got from there would be that chicane. Yeah, the left-right chicane that Luke always cuts, and then it's that straight, which is then the end of the sector. So it will literally be just a flat-out sector.
Yeah. So it's literally foot to the floor until you get to the right-hander.
I would just rather they move turn 10 a bit further back, because all it is gravel and like the hill. Make it a sharper braking zone. Promote more overtaking. I think that's what I would rather prefer, because I think it's a good corner, to be fair.
If they're going to reprofile it, then that's sort of the way to go. You've got to reprofile in ways that are going to encourage better racing. Obviously, we've just said that was an idea lost on Barcelona. But yeah, like, that's not going to. I feel like getting rid of that chicane's not gonna like reduce the spectacle or like reduce overtaking, because you don't really see all that much overtaking into that chicane anyway. It's an opportunity. You've got to be very brave, and there's got to be.
Oh, Luke, I give it.
Oh yeah, we are well aware.
If I see you coming near, if I see that arrow going red, I swerve out the way and just let you go, because it's easier.
Yeah, do what you want, son.
I have the psychological advantage.
But, like, yeah, it's not.
You two are too worried about my unpredictableness to commit.
It's not. It's. I've never considered that an issue with the track, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like, I do like the idea of them widening turn 1 to promote more overtaking there, and also to make it less of a like potential for like first lap accidents.
Oh yeah, Jack knows about that one as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all know about that one. The amount of times we normally have to restart.
I keep my nose clean all the time, and you know that. I'm the good egg.
Do you now?
Do we remember when you drove me into
you're
a wall in
talking
Canada?
Can I just?
We're gonna bring that one back.
I am the 2-time champion, so I think I need some respect on my name.
2.5.
Well, yeah,
we
1.5.
Finish the first season.
You gave
1.5. You've got as many championships as we've done podcasts.
Now that is the content we're here for, right? Yeah. So I think that sort of covers most of the track related stuff, really, because
basically with Australia, I don't think it's really gonna make too much of a difference in terms of racing. I think we could see unpredictability potentially with cars this season, with it being where it is.
Yeah, we've never seen a Grand Prix in Melbourne that late on in the season, so.
But that late on, plus potentially.
Well, I swear Australia used to be quite at the end of the calendar.
Yeah,
I don't think it was Melbourne.
Yeah, it was Adelaide. Yeah, traditionally Adelaide used to be towards the end of the calendar, if not like the last
Brazil
race.
used to be kind of near the beginning, didn't it?
Yeah, Brazil used to be like race 2 or 3.
Yeah. That's not bad.
But yeah, it's
bring Brazil back to the final race.
It's been juggled about.
Bring back Brazil.
Should we move on to other news then?
Yeah.
Well, if we try and wrap up news,
we'll move on to some better news. I know we've sort of spent the last half hour or so moaning about the news that's come out, but we've got some actually really good, positive, a feel-good story, and that's the fact that we've got Juan Manuel Correa returning to motorsport. And today he was announced as a driver for ART in Formula 3, and I mean that's such a big moment for him, but also I think for the sport, as obviously his injuries were like horrific in that crash, but also sort of the the psychological trauma and dealing with the baggage of being involved in that incident, which unfortunately Antoine Hubert lost his life in. It's I can't imagine how difficult that has been for him and how difficult this recovery has been. His legs just shattered, and so the fact he's going to be getting back behind the wheel of a single-seater in Formula 3 for a competitive team it's just such a feel-good story, and I know that Sauber think very highly of him. I don't know whether he'll make it to Formula 1 one day. We'll have to wait and see, but he put in some good performances in Formula 2 during his time, and it's just very good to see him back on his feet and back in a car.
I have to say, based on the injuries alone, I didn't really expect him to come back, if I'm honest. Taking the psychological aspect of it completely out of the question, like just the pictures of
they were
of his legs.
impossible.
Yeah.
I think it's good that he's going.
I didn't expect it, so
I think it's good he's going back to
news.
F3 because he's had a long time out.
Mm-hmm.
It would be a big leap to go straight back into F2. So I think F3 is a good start.
Oh, definitely.
I think he's definitely got talent. He definitely belonged in the F2 field. Could he join Formula 1? I don't know, but American Haas. It's always
that's what I literally just thought. Yeah,
it's always a shout.
It's a possibility.
Yeah, I mean he's a Sauber driver, so it wouldn't be all that difficult to get him into another Ferrari-powered car. So yeah, it's
a potential.
Mhm.
Yeah,
we'll have to wait and see. But at the very
that's
least,
a very
it's
feel-good story.
Yeah, exactly, and
Yeah, it's very
only
good news.
only
Very
wish
good
the
news.
best for
Yeah.
him. So yeah,
Mhm.
I think
Right,
that's
we
about
can
it.
bun off Valentino Rossi, but I think
Yeah,
one of the good things. So this week they released the starting times for races, and one of the big things was the new practice schedule. So for practice 1 and
Yes.
2, they've reduced it to an hour each. So that means they were both were an hour and a half. They're now just 1 hour. So that means that practice has been reduced fully by an hour. I think that's great.
yeah, all for it. Like, I mean, I know in recent times there hasn't been all that much sitting around with no action on track, but that's only because they gave all the teams an extra set of tyres to go and use during the first half an hour of FP1. So I don't think we'll see a reduction in the number of laps being
No.
done. I think it'll just be less time waiting around. They'll probably still be able to gather about the same amount of data,
Yeah.
maybe a little bit less, but
That's-
it just
if they
it does
don't
make
get enough
sense.
data, never mind. Think of San Marino. They only had a 2-day weekend. Everyone kind of went
The
into it.
Emilia Romagna.
The Emilia Romagna. What do they call? What are they calling it this year?
Oh, this year it's the Made in Italy Emilia Romagna Grand Prix.
That's enough.
Rolls off the tongue,
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah, I think
Mhm.
reducing it a bit more, it's not going to hurt it. If anything, it's going to make it a bit
Yeah.
more interesting. So I'm all for it.
And I do kind of think it's a bit of a trial for the future as to whether the 2-day weekend becomes the norm, especially with rising costs and everything. I think that could be where, at least for some of the events each season, we might head towards that. And I mean, I do watch practice when it's on. Like, obviously, I'm not just going to sit there and specifically watch it on a Friday
I
morning
feel
or whatever,
Luke and I
because
do the
gotta
same
do
exact
work.
thing where we've got a lecture on a Friday and we're like, yeah, we'll just put the Formula 1 on the background.
Yeah, exactly. Dual screens and the F1 on one screen, work on the other, and
Yeah.
try and
The
be
next 3
productive.
days, I've got 3 full days of uni. I can tell you, I am going to be doing anything apart from listening to that. I'm probably just going to be editing this.
Yeah. Right.
No, I normally put
Oh, but
free
Jack, you've
practice
got a proper
1 and
job.
2
You
on,
should be
like,
working
in the
now.
background while I'm at work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're actually contributing
No,
to
I have it
society,
on in the
unlike
background.
us.
I have it on in the background, and then if I'm up early enough on a Saturday morning, I'll chuck it on before quali. But I don't prioritise it at all. It's never something I go, oh, I must watch free practice.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I can get that.
It's never been that.
Shall we move on to our predictions?
Yeah.
Our predictions, which should have been
I
done
blame
in the
you
last
two
episode,
for
but-
talking too much.
Yeah, to be fair.
the start of the first episode. Oh, today we're going to be going through our
Yeah.
predictions. And then no predictions. And spoiler, in episode 1.5,
Yeah,
there
doesn't
not
was-
spoiler,
contain
this
it.
is
it's not
already out.
spoiler, because this is going out after. There are also no predictions.
I mean, the
Um,
effort was there
so
to try and put a spoiler
we-
warning. Like,
So we've got a list compiled by
Hi.
the lovely Brad of predictions to make. We're gonna make our predictions, give a bit of reasoning, and then we're gonna, if we remember,
It will
if this
be. It will
podcast
be.
is still alive,
Back it.
revisit
Back
them
it,
at the end
Jack.
of the
It
season.
will be. Not only will
Conceive,
it
believe,
survive,
achieve.
we'll be able to do it in person because COVID will no longer exist. Char.
I mean, harsh but fair.
But
Harsh
yeah,
but
so
fair.
the plan is to revisit these
Yeah.
predictions at the end of the season and see
Yep.
who got the most right, basically. Maybe we can go to the pub and the loser can buy a round.
It's gotta be me, isn't
Fingers
it?
crossed,
The
Dave.
person
Yeah.
who doesn't drink, yeah, I'll buy you a
Whatever
drink.
happens, we're buying Brad a Diet Coke. So.
I think we can stretch to 2, maybe, Luke, yeah? So long as we
Yeah,
have his
exactly.
Mate,
discount.
I hope
I ain't
I'm
paying
not
full
working there
price.
still. I've stolen a living off Spoons too much. I think I can hope I can leave. Right.
But if you've saved well over lockdown, you
The
won't have
bank
to work
account
there
is
again for
looking good.
months.
Well, I'm glad someone's doing all right.
Brad
Right.
collected the bag. Collected the bag from the UK
Right, back on
government.
track. So if we start off then with probably the easiest prediction, drivers' champion. So, Brad, do you want to go first?
Drivers' champion. It's quite easy, I think, isn't it? It's Lewis Hamilton, isn't it?
Yeah.
Unless he
like,
doesn't.
I think
unless
we're
he
all
doesn't
likely to
sign,
say the same
unless
thing
he doesn't
here.
sign, it's going to be Lewis Hamilton.
Definitely.
Jack is saying, Jack is staying quiet. Come on, give it to me. Give me.
I think.
Well, I
my
know who it's not going to
prediction
be. It's not going to be
for
Bottas,
drivers'
is it?
Is
Yeah, after we spent 20 minutes
it is
slewing
most
him.
definitely. sorry, Valtteri. Yeah, no, my prediction for champion is definitely. I mean, who else could it be other than Alex Albon, really?
DTM champion.
No, it's going to be Lewis. We're not going to get into the discussion again about Lewis resigning because I think we spoke about that enough last week. But it'll be Lewis, and I think if he doesn't resign, I think honestly Max will probably do it because I think without the competition of Lewis, he'll,
That's not a bad shout.
He'll definitely be the favourite, and I think he'll better Bottas.
Yeah.
If I'm honest,
I thought that'll be one. That'll probably be more the one to come back to with this one because if Lewis does re-sign, then we've all kind of said it. It's kind of slam dunk in it. So we'll have to see what happens there. But so on to the next one.
Next up, we have got driver of the year. Now this is going to be more a personal opinion, more than a official. Well, this unless there is a absolute stat, like unless Pierre Gasly wins the title or something, then there's no doubt who the driver of the year is. But driver of the year. Who wants to go
Luke, you
first?
take it away, lad.
Okay. So for me, I think it's likely to be Danny Rick. First season at McLaren. I know it's going to take him a little while to settle in, but I think he will take to that car like a duck to water. He's been screaming out for a Mercedes engine this whole turbo hybrid era. He's finally got it. We know that McLaren car is has good balance, that they can make it work across a variety of circuits.
Unless this M that they've added to it.
Well, that's a
make it
good
heavier.
point. That's a whole extra character.
There's a whole extra character on the side of the
I don't
car.
think they budgeted for that actually. So yeah, I might have to rescind my prediction there.
It's gonna put them to the back of the field. It has to really.
Only logical conclusion there. Right.
So you're going with
I'll go with Danny Rick,
Rick, yeah.
I have gone for George Russell.
Oh, well,
Not because I'm a sim.
What a
Not because I'm a
surprise.
sim. No, I think he had a really good season last year. And I think the only reason that people didn't think he had the best season is because Perez was undeniably great, outdrove the car. Gasly was great, outdrove the car. George did very well and outdrove the car. It just isn't high enough of the field to make it, like, to see it all the time. I think that changes this year. I think we see it in the points a bit more. He's going to, once again, decimate Latifi. And I think he's going to prove to Mercedes, even more than they already know, that he is the future of their team. And this year he's going to showcase his abilities. And I think the further up the field he gets, the better his racecraft gets, the more overtakes you will see. And people will, even more than they do, will understand why he's going to be the future of the sport. I'm not a simp.
And don't forget, Brad, George Russell, most laps gained on the first, most overtakes gained on the first lap, and least overtakes lost
Bowler.
on the first lap.
It's hard to lose. It's hard to lose places when you're starting last anyway. But no, joke.
Yeah.
19.
Yeah. 19.
On pace alone.
On pace alone. I went with Daniel Ricciardo as well. Similar reasoning to Luke. I don't see him not performing in the car realistically. Like, unless they've absolutely cocked it up over the winter, which would.
I don't
shock
think they're
me,
changing much to their
but-
car. Well, actually, no, they're changing a lot
McLaren
of
do
their
have
car
previous
because they
with
needed
this.
to build a whole new car to fit the Mercedes engine.
Mercedes engine,
Fit it
yeah.
around
It's
the power
they had to
unit,
change the gearbox as well. So there is a lot of work that's gone into this new car, but
They've had longer.
in essence, it is the same.
Yeah.
It's the same. Well, I don't want to say it's the same chassis because they've had to adapt it for the Mercedes, and that's why it's the 35M.
There's no groundbreaking stuff.
I can't see it going catastrophically wrong. Like,
yeah. They've been on an upward trend. I don't see it going downhill.
Sorry for the viewers, but just gonna knock on listeners, whatever. Gonna knock on wood. So sorry.
Do you think he's going to adapt quickly to the car? Because I think with Renault, it took him a few races to be like, okay, this is my car now. And even then, people will argue that he never really adapted to the style compared to the Red Bull.
But for me, I think that's more down to the fact that he was going from the Red Bull, which suited his driving characteristics of being, well, as the commentator were saying, like last of the late breakers. Like if someone's braking late, he can go 10 meters later and make it stick, and he could do that in the Red Bull. But going from a race-winning car to a car that was barely capable of the lower end of the points, at least at the beginning of his first season there, it was too big a transition to take to it so quickly. Whereas this time, okay, yes, he'll have spent all this time developing that Renault into the car he wants it, and he'll be going into a car that someone else has developed, but they finished within 20, 30 points of each other. I can't remember the exact number between McLaren and Renault, but there weren't that many points in it that, like, it won't be all that big a revolution for him. It won't be a revolution for him because it's just going from a midfield car to a midfield car. Like, so you're not talking lots of points of downforce lost, if any at all.
I think the Renault is a lot closer to the McLaren than the Red Bull was to the Renault
exactly.
So, I see him adapting pretty quick. I think he'll come out the blocks in Bahrain. I think he'll have. It won't be absolutely lightning in the first race, I don't think, but I think he'll have a good start.
Yeah.
He's going to have a good start because he's not going to go on the
well.
grass and hit a gutter like he did in Australia in his first race with Renault.
Yeah, mainly because it's in Bahrain. That's the start of the season.
Let's move on.
Right, anyway, next category.
Okay, so we've got Race of the Year, which is going to be a bit more of a difficult one to come up with sort of a concrete prediction, because obviously this is going to be objective. Not objective, very subjective, and is sort of going to depend on the circuits that we like and the reasons why.
So maybe it's worth just saying the tracks we do like and we think that will predict good races.
Yeah, I think that's probably a better way of putting it.
So my two guesses would be Baku and Austria.
Mm-hmm.
Baku has only been on the calendar since 2016, but I think every race, bar the first one, was good. Like, there's always a bit of drama, there's always a bit of chaos.
Yeah.
So,
we weren't expecting good racing there after that first year where it was just kind of and then suddenly crazy results, crazy races. So
I think that is just the nature of the track being so close. Any mistake is going to be consequential. So there's always drama of safety cars. So just that. And then with Austria, it's just a really good track. There's always overtaking.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it, haven't we? We've seen good racing there. We saw it twice last year. So
I can't think of a bad Austria race. So I think it's a good shout for my race of the year.
I mean, I also had Austria as one of my two, for the exact same reasoning. I mean, I've watched a lot less than you, but seeing 2 races at the same track that were both very
It's
different,
also the
but
only
very exciting.
track that you're
I
good
think
at on
that-
F1 2020.
How many seconds did I beat you by in Bahrain?
Too many.
Too many.
Yeah.
It's alright, lad. It's alright.
My other shout is Brazil, if we get there. And I feel as though that's the same with Brad Babaku with the street circuits. If we get there, I think it'll be
I was thinking the exact same thing for Brazil, that it's a big if we manage to get there, as obviously it's one of the hotspots in the world for COVID cases and deaths. So yeah, we'll have to see if we make it there. But I mean, a dry race, a wet race there, whatever happens, like we always get drama. So yeah, love the Brazilian track, and yeah, hopefully we make it there. Obviously, it being towards the end of the calendar gives us more chance of getting there. So yeah, I'll have to keep our fingers crossed on that one. And then another circuit. I probably should have thought about this in a bit more depth than I did.
Go on, look. Give us a Barcelona. Give us a Barcelona. We heard.
I absolutely love the Barcelona track. It's my favourite. No, I mean, again, North America is going to be difficult, but I mean, the Canadian Grand Prix is always a dramatic one with the Wall of Champions, potential of weather. See, I might be a bit biased, but for that race in 2011, I've not mentioned Jensen yet, but here we go. Big JB getting that.
So basically, I need to
victory in the
create a
race of the
tally of
century.
every episode that Luke mentions JB, and everyone just slews Bottas. Basically,
Yeah, like
Jack needs to,
we'll take
Jack
we'll
needs
do
to
a
mention
sweepstake.
Stoffel, and then we've got the home run.
Yeah, yeah, I'll go for Canada there. Again, I mean, Canada's not quite as bad, I don't think, as Brazil, but that's not saying all that much. So again, and Canada is in the middle of the season, so there's more of a risk of us not making it there.
It's unpredictable, but I think if we're basing it off of the current calendar, they are our
Right.
predictions. So we'll move on nicely to who do we think will be the 3rd place constructor this year after the amazing battle we had for it last season. Where do we think it's heading this year?
I think it's heading the way of Aston Martin. I think that with Vettel, I genuinely think that team is going to be more stable, more able to take all of the results available to them, as we know.
And he's lighter.
Well, exactly.
He's lighter. He's lost a couple of
that obviously
unfortunately.
he's
why,
committed
why,
to
Seb?
speed.
Why?
He's gone for the racing
You
stripe.
had nice hair. You had lovely hair, Seb.
But yeah,
And you've
I
done
genuinely
this to
think
us.
Aston Martin it'll be close, not as close as last year. But I do think Aston Martin, McLaren, and then Ferrari is the way I see it finishing. I think Ferrari will climb up, and Alpine will go down. But it's I just think that team is obviously they got good results last season. They got podiums, they got wins, and they got a win, sorry. But Lance threw away a couple of results. Arguably, it should have been him that won the Italian Grand Prix. He was in as good a position as Sainz and as Gasly, so it was his sort of impatience and inexperience. I don't want to say inexperience because he's been in sport for a while, but he made a mistake.
He locked up going into.
He locked up big
Yeah,
time.
ruined his tyres.
And ruined the tyres, didn't he?
So, arguably, he had the chance to win that race. So, I think just this season, if they can be more consistent, if they can be more like McLaren were, then they will get 3rd place, because that is the 3rd fastest car on the grid most weekends. Obviously, McLaren are going to make a step forward. I really hope that McLaren can get 2nd again and can gets 3rd again, and can be closer to the 2nd place team. But I do think that we're probably looking at a good showing for Aston Martin.
Jack, what was your guess?
Leading on from that, Luke, I'm backing the boys. I'm going with McLaren. I'm backing the boys. It is a toss up really between Aston Martin and McLaren for me. Like, same power unit. It's just based on what they do with the car, really, isn't it? I think that as a combination, I think McLaren have the better drivers, so that's going to go in their favour. I think Aston Martin will have the slightly better car. We'll see, won't we? We'll see. But yeah, I'm going with McLaren.
Me surprised. I thought you were both going to go McLaren.
Okay.
I am.
I mean, it's a head versus heart for me.
Who do you think I'm going with?
I think you're going to say Ferrari.
No.
I thought you were going to say Aston Martin. To be
Going
fair.
Aston Martin, yeah. I think so. I think they had the better car last year. They just lacked the consistency. And they had the 15-point penalty.
Mm-hmm.
Without that, they would have...
Plus,
without the
COVID
15-point penalty, without the COVID interruptions, like Hulkenberg was in the car for what, 2-3 races, like
2.
3 races. Oh,
yeah,
it was meant to be.
But
three.
didn't make it to the grid for the first Silverstone.
So,
which also leads into them.
Yeah,
so
dropping
I
points
think
where they shouldn't have.
they're going to build on that. I think Lance is going to be a bit more consistent. I hope Lance is going to be a bit more consistent. I hope Vettel gets back into a good mindset. I think he's going to be in a better team that is going to suit him more. It's going to be a bit more jovial compared to the Ferrari hierarchy, very political structure.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be dressed
Exactly. He's going to look. Yeah.
What's there not to love?
So I think Aston Martin. I think it's going to be close. I agree. I don't think it's going to be as close as last year. But yeah, I think Aston Martin, which is annoying because I want McLaren.
Mm-hmm.
I think they need to focus on 2022 McLaren more than anything.
Yeah, exactly. McLaren need to have that 2022 car be a title challenger, or at least challenging for wins.
Yeah, with Ferrari though, like I would love to see them higher up. I just don't see them changing that much and focusing more on 2022.
Yeah, I mean, they are introducing the new spec engine for the beginning of this year because they weren't allowed to work on it during the they weren't allowed to work on it during the season last year, and they're not allowed to work on it this year, so it had to be in the off season. They're using, I think, all of their tokens or whatever the system is, all of their time or whatever for that engine upgrade, and they think they'll be back on par with the Renault engine with that. And if that is the case, then obviously that car's still going to be a dog because it was built around the super powerful engine that allegedly had a controlled oil leak. But all allegations. But they built the engine and then the car, and I think they will learn their lesson for 2022. But this year it'll just be about getting the engine as good as it can be, and then hope for. I think they've got to be aiming for 4th, but I think 5th is probably more realistic.
Yeah, I think they're going to score more points because they're going to have 2 competent drivers, and that is a bit of a dig at Vettel. But Sainz and Charles are going to get points.
Seb.
Seb just didn't perform.
Yeah,
his heart wasn't in it.
Yeah.
Sainz is coming off the confidence boosting season as well, so he's got high confidence.
Yeah, rock bottom, and also he's very sensitive to a car that doesn't behave predictably, and that Ferrari was always on the edge of grip and was prone to aero stalls and things like that, and that's what caused all of the spinala. Well, not all of them, but a lot of the spinala.
Right, that's two in 2 weeks though. Luke has done spinala, so that's another thing we've got to check on.
Meme lord, but like it's. There were reasons for his bad season. Not all him, not all the car, and I think it showed that like Charles got the most out of that car because, well, I think he is a generational talent. He needs to mature a bit, but it is like he thrives on having the car on that ragged edge, like, which in a way kind of reminds me a bit of Hamilton when he was younger. Like, wanting the car to be dancing around, getting the absolute maximum out of it, and then as he matures, I mean, because we saw that with Lewis, as he matures, he's just become an all-rounder, and hopefully that's what happens with Charles. But yeah, anyway, I think we'll move on now. So we've done third place constructor.
Moving on.
So rookie of the year, and so we've got 3, but only really 2 rookies. So because this
No, only 2.
Oh yeah,
There
sorry,
are
yeah,
3
because this.
We have 19
Yes,
drivers.
there are
on
19
the grid
drivers
this season.
because this podcast refuses to acknowledge the existence of that egg. So we have Yuki Tsunoda or Mick Schumacher, and for me,
I know.
well, I'm a simp for them both, but
You're gonna sit for him.
I
I saw
love
you
Yuki,
comment on his
and,
turtleneck the other day, so I know who it's gonna be.
Yeah, it's Yuki Tsunoda. But also, not just because I'm a simp for him, but also because he is going to be in the better car. Like, we know that Haas is likely to be the worst car on the grid. And Mick... Yeah.
I think it will.
Like,
be the worst car
Mick
on
is
the
going to
grid.
have a handful with it. So, for him, I think this season is more just about a transition because he hasn't got the pressure of Red Bull. Whereas Tsunoda, he's got to take to it quickly, but being in the better car, he'll be more likely to be able to take to it quicker. So yeah, I think Yuki for rookie. Of the year.
Yuki, I agree.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Easy.
All agreed. the thing is, Mick. I feel as though all that's expected of Mick next season is to try and pick up a couple points if
He won't.
can at the absolute maximum. No. What I'm saying is,
Yeah.
if he can,
That would be a great season. Would be nicking a
That
point
is-
or 2.
a great season. If he can pick up 1 or 2 points in that car, it's a brilliant season for him.
Exactly.
Because it proves it proves how good he is if he can
Yeah.
get in that.
Well, especially
That's hot.
as Grosjean and Magnussen didn't score all that many points last season, and they're by no means slow
They
They got
drivers.
about
They
7.
got 3, didn't
No.
they?
I think it was. So
Grosjean got a 9.
K-Mag got 1.
I'll have a look.
Yeah.
Talk.
Well,
talk,
K-Mag
talk, and I'll
got a
have
point
look.
in Hungary.
So, 7's a bit too
and-
much. I think it's about 3 or 4.
And then Roman got a 9th
Yeah,
place
got a 9.
in Germany, and I think he got 1 point at the Mugello, the Tuscan Grand Prix.
Right.
So I think we're looking at 4 points for Haas.
Oh, close.
There you go.
3.
Ah,
3 points.
okay. So he didn't get points at the Tuscan Grand Prix. Then it was just the 2 at the Nürburgring.
I can't see which driver it is. I'm guessing it's Magnussen, but got 10th place in Hungary and
Yeah.
9th place
For
in Germany.
Roman.
Bro,
Yeah.
got 9.
Okay, So yeah, like 3 points for 2 of the most experienced drivers on the grid. They're not slouches. Like that car. I mean, there are videos by Autosport or The Race that have explained why that car is so predictable. It doesn't handle reliably. Aero stalls. It's very off balance. And being a rookie with that sort of car is going to be difficult. So
Their priority this off-season is fixing that suspension issue because the 2 rookies need to have a predictable car, and at the moment it's so unpredictable that
Brad.
sorry,
You just
1
said 2
rookie,
rookies.
yeah, sorry, a rookie and an egg. But yeah, I'll get onto my views on that in my out there predictions later on. Ooh.
Oh, okay. I mean,
Is it going to be a first mention
No.
of
No, he's not getting mentioned.
someone we've tried to not mention? The next category is most improved driver of the year.
Jack, why don't you go first, lad?
Why don't I go first? Okay, so my prediction for most improved driver of the year is it's Alex Albon again.
I mean, it can't get worse for
um,
him. So
Okay.
It's Nicholas Latifi.
okay, yeah.
And This is part of my out there predictions for later, but Nicholas Latifi's gonna get a point this year.
Okay.
I think so. Yeah.
That's what I'm going with. If he gets a point, I can't see how he's not most improved driver, to be honest. Yeah, I think there's very little expected of him from anybody for this season. I think he's got to be trying to aim to beat the Hasses. Past that, any higher position he can pick up, 18th or higher, I think he's gradually going to put in some shifts this year. Get a bit lucky with strategy, maybe. I mean, we've said before, not on the pod, but we've said before, Williams just need to chuck it out there with strategy a little bit more. Go for the alternate to what other people are doing. But yeah, so I'm going big boy Nicholas Latifi.
My most improved of the year is going to be Antonio Giovinazzi.
Interesting.
I think he is just going to dominate Kimi. I think he's going to make Alpha his team. He's going to be the first driver in next year because Kimi will retire, hopefully. I think he's going to make the team his own. And I think he's going to prove that he deserves a seat there because everyone keeps questioning it. So I think Giovinazzi.
Okay. I mean, I can see the reasoning there. I can see the reasoning for both predictions there. Because for me, Giovinazzi had a very good season last year. So, and it sort of went under the radar. So for me, for Giovinazzi, it's more of the same and actually people picking up on those performances because he did embarrass Kimi, to be honest, especially for a driver that we know is being paid barely anything comparatively and people are always saying he's just on the grid because Ferrari didn't have anyone else to put in that seat. So I rate him and I hope he has a very good season. So I can see the reasoning behind there. And Latifi, all he's got to do is improve from there. But for me, it's got to be Sebastian Vettel because his season was obviously he had the highlight in Turkey, which just showed sort of wily old fox. He was in the right position at the right time and got the result when others faltered, and that just showed he hadn't lost it. He just needs a car that he can trust, and somehow he managed to get the best out of the Ferrari when it was when the conditions were their trickiest. I mean, he's always been good in the wet, we know that, but take that result out and there was no standout performance. It was
to be fair, there's not much to improve.
Exactly. The only way is up. We know that car's going to be quick, and I can see him getting. Well, this is going to be one of my out there predictions. I can see him getting maybe 2 or 3 race wins next season.
Oh,
are you mad?
Spicy.
That's
Spicy.
2 or 3 race wins,
Spicy.
podiums,
That's
baby.
my out there
wins.
prediction. You said out there predictions.
Wow.
Oh my
Okay.
god. No. You've lost it, baby. You've lost it.
Okay.
You've lost it. Not a chance. Right. Should we, before we go on to our actual out there predictions, we'll just cover off flop of the year. I'm going for Kimi. I don't see Giovinazzi's going to drive him under the table this year. I think he'll retire at the end of the year, and I think what happens to him this season is going to make him want to retire at the end of the year. If I'm honest, I don't mean that in a mean way to Kimi. He's a very good character to watch. He was a top draw racing driver. The others are better than him now.
Yeah.
And Nicholas Latifi is going to beat him in a race. I don't know if that's already happened or not, but it's going to happen next season.
My flop of the year is Fernando Alonso. I don't think he's going to be fast. I think he's going to regret coming back to the sport. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, I see him regretting coming back, but I don't think. I think he's got enough natural talent to not be worse than Esteban Ocon, who is my call for flop of the year. I do think the Alpine team is going to be disappointing. do think they're gonna have built this up to be this should be a big season for them, but I can just see it falling flat. Like, it's going to be, I think, another transition year, unfortunately, with the new personnel, which we talked about last week, and they are all positive moves, but it's going to take a while for that to gel, I think, and
everything's a positive move at Alpine, other than the drivers,
like Esteban Ocon, flop of the year, hands down, because that podium was a complete fluke. I know none of us are his biggest fan. It's just he was in the right place at the right time.
I've got a t-shirt of his.
Which day of the week is he?
Don't
know. I said last week. I said Valtteri Bottas is a good racing driver. Esteban Ocon is an average racing driver.
There's a reason Mercedes were happy to let him go.
That.
Yeah, if he was all that good, they would have fought tooth and nail to get him a seat somewhere, or would have put him in the Mercedes seat when Bottas was put in it, and they did not.
Yeah.
But yes, so that's our mainstream predictions out of the way.
Now the big ones.
And now time for the interesting ones.
Yeah.
Out there predictions. So I think we should each individually go through our ones, like taking turns to go through what ours are, rather than interchanging between. Who wants to go first?
I want to hear more of Luke's, because he thinks that Steph Vettel's winning 3 or 4 races.
Yeah, okay, alright. Well, we'll start with Luke then. So Luke's first one, I don't think it needs any more
I think you're
argument
mental,
on it.
but there we
Right, so
Really?
yeah, I mean, the official claim is going to be 2 race victories for Sebastian Vettel. I know it's very much out there, and we've gone for out there predictions. I do think that Racing Point will be quick enough it will be the 3rd fastest car, and there's going to be incidents over the season. We saw Perez win a race. I think that Sebastian could do it as well. So, that's my first out there prediction. Second out there prediction is, I guess it's not really all that out there, because we've seen AlphaTauri podiums before, but I think that Gasly scores another podium.
He was going to say Yuki. Yeah.
No, I really want Yuki to score a podium, but as we said sort of last week, I mean...
I was going to say that was going to be a big change, because last week we were like, he'll be happy with 6th, and then Luke goes, yeah, he's getting a podium, lads, don't worry.
No, yeah. I think Pierre could score another podium, which I know isn't all that out there, but we'll see how that goes. Okay. And then let's have a think. Perez to outscore Max Verstappen.
Wait,
across the season. I'm not sure
he's lost.
I'm not sure I actually believe that one, but
I know you don't believe it.
I know you outscore Max. Come on, Luke.
We're looking for controversy.
We're
looking for controversy.
Oh, I know. I'm gonna clickbait this title then.
No.
Yeah.
Checo to outscore Max. Question mark, exclamation mark.
No, it needs to be, is Max's career over?
Yeah. I'm sure we can just chuck KSI in the title somewhere, can't we? Do you want to go next, Brad?
I'm still getting over Checo to outscore Max. Oh! He doesn't believe it.
He doesn't believe it. There's not a chance he believes that.
So my 3 out there predictions.
Oh,
look, alright, I didn't plan for that question. You put me on the spot.
Okay. My first one, I said it last week and you didn't agree with me. Daniel Ricciardo wins a race. Silence.
I'm not the only one that's lost the plot.
Daniel Ricciardo gets a win. You all want to believe it.
That's a tricky one.
Yeah, I want
it to happen in so much, but
Well,
I don't think
that's
it
the
can
point
happen.
of these predictions.
It's much. Daniel Ricciardo to win a race is much more likely than Sebastian Vettel to win multiple races. If Luke had said Sebastian Vettel to win one race, they would be about even to me. The likelihood of happening, if I'm honest with you. The multiple puts it completely out the question to me, Luke. That relies on Mercedes cocking up 2 races.
I mean, Pierre Gasly won a race and Perez won a race. That's 2 races which were cocked up.
True.
I mean, admittedly,
that relies on Sebastian Vettel not spinning.
also true.
Okay?
I mean, let's be real. I normally view F1 quite pragmatically, being like, sort of, you know what, it is what it is, like, and enjoy it for what it is. So,
Yeah.
out there predictions
Allowance.
for me don't necessarily go with the sport. So I'm playing the game, coming up with some clickbait title predictions.
Okay.
Right.
My second one.
Okay.
My second one. Williams beat Haas. And I think it's going to be quite comfortable, so I don't even think it's that out there of a prediction, if I'm honest.
Mhm.
So maybe my out there
I don't think it's
prediction
out
is
there at
Haas
all.
score no points.
Mm.
No.
Again, I don't actually
You know
think
what?
that's out
I
there,
can see
if I'm honest.
Williams beating both of Alfa Romeo and Haas.
I think George gets quite a few points. And I think
Oh,
Oh,
I thought you were going to say
Yeah.
podium.
I think George
I thought you were
Russell
gonna say
wins the race.
podium.
No, yeah.
There we go.
That
That's your
That
clickbait.
is my prediction, okay? One of them, Bottas gets COVID, George gets a win. No, I think both George and Latifi get in the points. I don't think Haas are getting in the points. Maybe Alpha don't get in the points. So I think this is a good season for Williams. And my third prediction, Alonso doesn't get anywhere near a podium.
And I feel that one is quite out there.
I don't think he's going to get anywhere near
I mean,
a podium
not
either,
necessarily out
to
there
be fair.
amongst us, because I know that we're kind of not sceptical of the return, but aren't thinking he's going to do the great things that others expect him to do. But like the media are hyping him up
so
to be,
much.
it's the return of the king.
I don't
Like
think
he's
so.
gonna
I don't think so at all.
drive them forward, and I think I can agree with that one. That
I mean, it's a lot of the car he's going into for me. Like if he was, I mean, it would never happen. But if he had gone into that empty Red Bull seat
difference.
this season, I think we could have seen not the very best. I don't think, because I think Alonso's best days is definitely past him. But a bit of a resurgence of Fernando Alonso, podiums.
Yeah.
He could have gone out with a bit of a bang. But
When I
don't
say
think
he
it
doesn't
would
get
help.
near a podium, I don't think he gets a top 5. Is basically what I'm saying. I think he's having a stinker.
Yeah,
I
I'd agree with
don't
that, if I'm
think. I think he's probably got a 4th place in him, but a distant 4th place in a race where like both.
Circumstance dependent.
Yeah, like I can see him. I don't think he gets a podium, even if it's a crazy race.
Yeah.
Like I see him being like, say we have another Italy. I see him being where Lando was P4 that race. Like
Alonso's getting nowhere near 5th place if the Mercedes, the Red Bulls, the McLarens and the Aston Martins, if all 4 of them finish the race, he's nowhere near at all. Like he's struggling for top 10, I think, in that occasion.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so we've had 2. We've had 2 of ours predictions.
Okay, so my first one, I don't know how out there this is, but before the last race of the season, they're going to change in some aspect the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix.
Okay.
Okay.
In terms of track format.
Okay.
Track layout even, sorry.
I hope so.
My second prediction. Yeah, no, I think we all hope so, but I think it's very unlikely
I don't think they
personally.
will, but
That's why I've gone without
I
that.
hope so.
Anyway, second one, Williams to score over 10 points And as I said earlier, Latifi.
I know you're 2 and 3. So Williams just. Oh, okay.
No, that's one prediction. That's
I
Williams
agree with
points,
Latifi.
with Latifi
10.
as a point scorer.
Over 10, Brad. Okay.
I have thrown a fourth one in here as well. It's only a short one though.
Okay.
Oh, well, I've got number 3 coming up next. George Russell to be a Mercedes driver by the end of the season.
Spicy. I can get on board with that.
And my final one along the same lines, Callum Ilott to be a Haas driver before the end.
Spicy,
I think we'd all absolutely love that.
Yeah.
So.
I think Russell to be Mercedes is a good shout.
I think my 4 are people pleasers.
I think Russell is a good shout.
No one's going to be unhappy with any of those circumstances.
See, this is what happens when you plan properly.
Other than Valtteri Bottas.
I think Russell is a good shout, and I think that's quite the most likely out of all of them. I think, unfortunately, we're with the egg for a while.
I mean, it says a lot that we think it's more likely for George Russell to replace Valtteri Bottas mid-season at Mercedes, who do not do that, than it is for them to change the Abu Dhabi track format.
I also thought you were gonna release I thought you meant we release that Russell will drive 2022. That gets announced during the season. Is what I thought you were saying, but I back it at the same.
No. The prediction is for him to be in that Mercedes car racing.
Is that just because of COVID? Do you think Bottas just gets COVID and Russell jumps?
No. The prediction is he will be the Mercedes driver alongside either Lewis.
Is that because you think Bottas
Valtteri
is stinky?
Lure him into saying it. There we go.
I'm sure Bottas smells lovely. All right.
And there we have it. Valtteri Bottas smells lovely. For more great insight into the world of Formula 1, join us next week where we continue to give such elite intel into the goings-on in the motorsport world. Our Twitters are in the description. DM us your predictions, let us know what you agree with, or tell us how crazy Luke is for thinking Vettel wins 2 races, or that Jack actually thinks that Abu Dhabi might change. Thank you as always for listening, see you next time, and have a nice.